In any workplace, there are always people with whom you will disagree. This could be a boss, a peer, or even a subordinate. But in the first responders profession, we owe it to the citizens we watch over to work through these differences in order to provide the best help and assistance during times of crises and emergencies. How can an agency with so many different personalities and viewpoints work towards a coherent goal, though? This is Lifeline. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Lifeline 911 with your host, Erica.
Hello.
I am your co host, Gary, and today we are going to be discussing how to work with people with whom you disagree. Not that, a lot of places have this, but I have heard tale that there are some disagreements among staff at various places around the world
You know,
on
every now
occasion.
and then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most of the time, completely hunky dory, never a disagreement or problem, right?
Sure. Of course. Cats and dogs living together as one. It's beautiful.
Yes, exactly. So when I say working with people you disagree with, uh, there's a lot of times when it's either a policy issue that's going on, how to solve a particular problem. It could be equipment issues, or just general demeanor. All of these things can be sort of variables that people will have different ideals on what the correct way to handle them will be, and sometimes people will butt heads if
Yeah.
their perspective isn't necessarily the one that's being adhered to by everyone. So, how can anyone in a first responder profession, be it call takers, dispatchers, supervisors, management, or even police officers in the field, firefighters, medical personnel, how can we all work together as one coherent unit when there is so much disagreement?
I think remembering that it's not about you is going to be one of the first things. Right? My way does not have to be the only way. And it doesn't my way it may not be the right way. And you might be right, but you have to ask yourself, is it worth the fight? Depending on what it
Sure.
is it worth the fight? And is it worth blowing up the work environment to be right? I heard a saying once and I've never forgotten it. You can be right at the top of your lungs and still be wrong.
Hmm. That's a good saying. I also like the often wrong, but never in doubt. I think that's also a good saying.
That's a good one. Yeah. I think one of the hardest things for a human to do is accept that their idea is not the best one. Or yeah, I think that's not always an easy thing to do. But I think it gets easier depending on how your idea is, if it is rejected, for lack of a better way to put it, right?
Mhm.
It's not the one we all pick. I think how you receive that has a lot to do with how it's presented, right? How it's told to you.
Right. Yeah, I would agree. And I think a lot of times people will feel that their idea is the correct one, or perhaps the one that's most direct to solve the problem. Because there might be more than one correct answer, but some of them may be more meandering than others. And working with people that might take a different path is okay to do, because
Yeah.
as long as you're all working toward the same goal, and everyone in the first responder profession is hopefully working toward keeping everybody safe, secure, and happy.
Hmm.
Um, so
Yeah.
if you remember that, that can help ease a lot of the tension that happens when your idea may not be selected.
Yeah. And I know it's shocking. This is probably going to shock a lot of people. But in this profession, we can have a lot of ego.
Absolutely.
especially the longer you've been doing it, I've got experience.
Yeah.
I've been doing this since before you were in diapers, or since you were in diapers, or before this and before that, and blah, 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 blah. All the things that, as human beings, we can become puffed up. And don't let you have won an award or two, or got an attaboy or an attagirl or two from somebody, in the business, officer or, commander, chief or something like that. And then it just, it's not difficult to become puffed up
Hmm.
and a little full of yourself, whether you realize it or not, whether you intend that to be the case or not. And so then when you go to present your solution, you go in with the idea that because it's you and you're so fabulous that it has to be the right answer. And what's wrong with these people for not realizing that because you are so fabulous and have been doing it since before they were able to walk and talk, that they don't just take your idea? What's wrong with them?
Yes, that is true. Although I will say that I have also seen people that have just started um, sometimes feel that way as well. Now
Hmm.
we talk a lot about the importance of getting new blood into the profession, not only because we're going to age out eventually, and we need someone to
Hmm.
take our places, but to also get new ideas and uh, concepts kind of into the industry that is sometimes resistant to that. So
Yeah,
it's a fine line to walk because you don't want to discourage new thought coming in, but at the same time, how do I want to put this? At the same time, there are sometimes fences that are built, and you don't want to just tear them down without understanding why the fence is there in the first place. And if you're
well
brand new,
said.
thank you, thank you. I did not come up with that, but I do enjoy it. But
Oh, good.
if you have just come into the profession, you can have a lot of good ideas, and you should be willing to share them. But at the same time, there may be reasons why things are done A, B, and C.
Sure.
Like,
Well, and another way to look at that too is we've all heard it before. We've always done it this way.
mm-hmm,
And then someone comes along, whether they be as old in the field as you, and they have a light bulb moment. They're like, hold on, there might be a better way to do this. And you absolutely disagree on it, or you can't see where they're coming from with it. What do you do?
yeah, and that is very challenging at times. I think that for me, I like to try and understand the idea that the person is trying to put out there. And so I can be
Mhm.
clear on what they're proposing. Because I think a lot of times people will start forming their opinions or their thoughts immediately. They're waiting for that person to finish. Sometimes they don't wait for that person to finish, but they're waiting for that person to finish so they can rebut that. But
Yeah.
it's important, I think, to be willing to hear what the other person's saying. I think it was Plato that said the mark of an educated mind is to be able to entertain an idea without accepting it. In terms of
Nice.
like, I'm going to hear this idea, I'm going to think about it, I'm going to look at it and tease it and see if it does have merit. It might be different than my own, and I want to
Yeah.
come at that as honestly as I can.
And it just goes back to, I think one of the opening things that we said is the whole idea of what it is that we do every day, or the common goal is to keep the public and our field responders, regardless of the discipline, safe. So if we start there and end there, finding common ground or trying to understand where someone else is coming from is less difficult to do. If you give them the benefit of the doubt and lean in and say, okay, whatever this idea is, or whatever this difference of opinion or difference different plan of attack, right, to solve a problem, if it's born out of the same desire that I have, give them that benefit of the doubt, and it will help you. I would think that it would help you hear and see clearer the way that they're trying to express something to you, or an idea, whatever. Even if you just absolutely don't agree at the end of the day, if you start from the same place, maybe you can get somewhere.
Yeah. And I think that it's interesting because in my experience, it's at least in our profession, when the fecal matter is hitting the whirly blade, there is no um, everybody's very unified in purpose. When there's a crisis,
Yeah.
things snap into place. Everybody's going. Let's go. Let's work through these problems. Let's figure it out. Like
Yep.
when we had snowpocalypse,
Yep.
there were lots of issues that we had to make decisions on, and everybody was kind of on board with trying things. It's
Hmm.
when there's slow time, when like it's not a critical thing, is when you have a lot of, I think, backbiting and
Yeah.
nagging and kind of
Yeah.
disagreement. And I think that's very curious because you would almost think it'd be the opposite, where when it's a critical situation people get stressed out and are nervous, so they go kind of crazy. But at least for, I think, us in our profession, when that critical
Hmm.
situation happens, we're like, now's our time to act. Let's go. Let's do this. And it's in the slow portions that there's more turbulence.
You're 100% right because I cannot think. I imagine if I tried really hard, I could probably come up with one or two. But just off the top of my head, I'm thinking of all the different situations that can come up in a comm center, right? The most awful, officer down, or, officer hurt, or officer needs help, whether it be EMS, fire, PD, doesn't matter. That field responder is in trouble. All of the personality conflicts, all of that stuff goes out the window. Why does that happen? Because now we have a unified purpose.
Hmm.
And it was always there, but now it's in front of us. And we lock arms. It is the craziest thing to watch. And then when it's over with, those same people at each other and coming to me and you wanting us to break it up or cast the deciding vote. It's craziness.
Yeah, and I think that's an excellent point you made, because you said our purpose becomes clear. It's almost like when
Hmm.
uh, like there's too much interference, like it's too murky, the water's too unclear, when there's there's not a there's not enough going on, almost,
Hmm.
because you get lost in the miasma of the little details.
Yes.
But when that comes to the surface, everybody's like, okay, I understand why I'm here, what I'm doing. And if we
Yeah.
can all, I think, try and keep that always at the forefront of our mind, really implicitly and just really, or explicitly rather, and focus on that, maybe that would help ease a lot of tensions. Because if you understand how everything you do can save or cost a life, you're
Yeah.
probably much less apt to waste frustration and energy on things that aren't really that critical.
Yeah. And you can, uh, we had a request from a listener, which is how this episode was born. She wanted to know, how is it that basically, how do you work with people and you disagree at your core, I guess, about, I guess, life and anything and everything, on top of how to get to the end of this problem that we're having, or the approach. And that really is what happens if you work in this industry. You already know that doesn't matter how big or small your PSAP is, all hell starts breaking loose. People who absolutely would scratch each other's eyes out go to work. And it is one of the most impressive things you will ever witness.
Hmm.
Now, I can't speak for after the hell is no longer breaking loose.
Once it's
But
contained.
yeah, but while it's happening, most of the time, those people just, they literally, and I'm gonna say it again, they lock arms and they go to work. And I think in that moment they realize it's not about them.
Hmm. No,
Has nothing to do with them.
that's very well said, because it's the ego has to take a back seat to the cause that you're serving. And if we can do that more often, I think it'll lead to more successful outcomes, because
Yeah.
uh, if somebody disagrees with you or doesn't like your idea, it's, I think, very natural to feel like they're saying something bad about you, whereas it's
Yes.
more talking about the idea. So a good person can have a bad idea, just as a bad person
Yeah.
can have a good idea. It's so when you're discussing these kind of things and trying to figure it out, taking the you out of it, just like if you take 911 calls, I always, counsel the trainees to remove yourself because you're going to hear a lot of unhappy things said to you. And if you can take
Yeah.
the personality out of that and just focus on the issue,
Hmm.
I think that helps a lot to work through those.
Agreed. And the the goal is, again, our responders and our citizens to be okay. And I could even go a little further to say, it's all about making sure that your department, your agency, your entity stays out of the news in a negative way.
Yeah.
That again is about a bigger situation than you. It's bigger than you. Thinking about the bigger picture, how to keep us all okay, out of the news in a negative way. Let them write till times get better about how amazing we are. Yes, please. Can we have another all day, every day? But our actions or our inactions or our personalities or our biases, whatever those things are, they get in the way. It blocks the mission.
Hmm.
It keeps us from getting the thing done. And the thing is, our responders, our public, and our agency as a whole, and us too, because we're part of that, keeping us safe from all those things that come against it. It's not about us, it's about a bigger picture.
Yeah. And I think that clarity when the things are going bad is very helpful, to keep in mind the bigger picture. But
Hmm.
when you don't have that, that can kind of get lost sometimes. So we were talking about, like, how to work with people you disagree with. And so, like, Erica, you and I agree on a whole lot of topics, be it from, like, training to, I mean, if you've listened to the show, we agree on many topics. But we do have a strong disagreement on some topics, like, for example, like attendance. Like, you and I are on very
Hmm.
different ends of the spectrum with that. And, we still manage to stay collegial with each other somehow.
Hmm.
I mean, I guess. I feel like we are.
Absolutely. And you're right, but I think that is, I've known you for a very long time. I know I know why you're here and why you do what you do, and I know your reason for your perspective and your stand on it. And you know the same thing about me. So I can respect, while I disagree, I can respect where you're coming from because I know your why.
Hmm.
I believe wholeheartedly. I can tell people right now we disagree on freebies with attendance. I guess that's the best way to describe it without getting into the weeds about
A
the
loose
attendance
attendance
policy.
policy, we'll say.
It's loose in his opinion. It's not. I'm more about if I can, I will, without giving the store away. Gary is more of a this is black, this is white. All this gray we keep talking about, I don't have time for it. It's black or it's white. You're either here or you're not.
Hmm.
You either asked early or you didn't. If you didn't, you're late and you're absent without blah 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 and blah. Me, on the other hand, if I've got the extra people and you haven't called and said you're not coming, period, in the discussion, but if you call an hour before shift and you say, hey, do we have enough people for me to be able to take off today? I go 1 + 1 = 2, carry the one, minus the zero. Okay, I have an extra body. Sure. What kind of time you want to use?
Hmm.
Doesn't bother me because it does not hurt me in my shift. It doesn't cost me anything. I don't have to hold anybody over because of you. And you didn't call and say you're not coming. You said, Do we have enough room to afford to not have me be here and it not count against me? 1 plus 1 equals 2, carry the zero, then minus the three, and okay, I got the people. Cool.
Mm,
What kind of time? I have Gary's not the only one. There's at least one other that I can think of that is of the same mind. Look, you called me an hour before the shift. You should have planned your life better.
yeah, and uh, so in this particular example, it's an argument that I uh, consistently lose in our discussions, which is fine. Um, I mean, I of course think I'm correct on this, but often wrong, but never in doubt, as I say.
Agreed. Yes,
Uh,
that is true.
so for me, I have to work with uh, like because we all agreed to work something one way in our center, and it's maybe not the way I would prefer to do it, but since we all came to a consensus, I very much try and work it that way all the time, so there's consistency. Because especially if you're in
Hmm.
a leadership uh, position, you want to have consistency with people, so people can trust you and trust everyone else that's making decisions. Because if everyone is creating their own policy and procedure, then you have just absolute pandemonium.
Sure. And I don't agree with pandemonium and willy-nilly and loosey-goosey. I don't fast and loose any of the things you say. I don't agree with those. But I also know that life happens and we have enough black and white in our center just because of the way we have to do business and the people taking care of all the people. Why can't we take care of them from time to time? And if it doesn't cost me anything, why should it cost them anything?
Hmm.
But will I absolutely say no? Mm-mm, no, no, I can't do that. If I can't afford it, I can't afford it. The answer is no. Now, if you turn around and say I'm not coming anyway, then be prepared to live with whatever the consequences are of that. And I'll be the first one there ready to hand down that consequence.
Hmm.
But if it doesn't have to be that way, then why make it that way? But I also see the point because if you, if you don't have leadership that can look at a set of circumstances and use good judgment. And yes, I said good judgment. If you don't have those kinds of leaders in your center, then yes, you're going to have all hell breaking loose and they're going to be loosey goosey, fast and loose, fast and free, all the things. And they will make bad decisions because they won't be able to justify the why they did what they did. And if you can stand behind it, what's the problem?
Hmm.
Can you see? I respect this man immensely. So, but we absolutely are far away on this subject.
We're very far
But we
apart.
come to, sure, but we can work on the same shift. And if he says, I've made this decision, you can best believe I've got his back 1000%. That's the decision, whether I agree with it or not. Now, you'll never know that I disagree.
Right. And I
That's how, but it's a bigger picture though.
yeah, and I very much appreciate that about you, Erica, because I know that you always have my back, and I'll always have yours,
Yeah.
because we're both trying. Our why is the same. We're both trying to reach the same goal. We just think there might be different ways of getting there with that. So when it's like you have a compass, and they're both your needle's pointing north, but if you're at different spots, you're going to have to take a different angle to get there. So
Mm-hmm.
um, it's important to be able to have open and honest discussions about what you think is the right thing to do. And when you need to come together, working as a team, being the same, of presenting the same front to whatever the issue
Mm-hmm.
is, be it an attendance policy, be it how you're going to respond to active shooters, or a structure fire or a flood.
Yeah.
You want to make sure that you're taking the ego out of it, and working
Yes.
towards your ultimate goal, which is the preservation of life and safety.
Agreed. And we have to be able to do that. And somebody might be wondering, well, what does that have to do? What is that attendance policy and you guys disagreeing and working together? What does that have to do with it? Well, it has everything to do with it because if we can't set aside how we feel personally and embrace the decision that is best overall in this moment, then we can't lead the shift. And if we can't lead the shift is in chaos. And the people doing the work that we're overseeing don't have solid leadership behind them, and it just trickles down. So it starts with something as simple as what it may seem as simple as a policy, and our ability or inability to work together and get past the ego of that. It could blow up everything. And it's true if you're even on the front line. Call takers and dispatchers, two call takers take the same call and they disagree on the title code. First of all, I don't care. Get the call in and we'll figure out the rest, because guess what? Everybody can read and we can figure out based on your notes what's really going on here. But what I can't have is you two bickering over what it should be, holding up the process and holding up the help that's getting there,
Hmm.
because that defeats the purpose of why we're here.
Right. And I actually had a call taker uh, some time ago that was that disagreed with the title code of what a call should be, even though she understood, yes, our policy says A, B, and C, and it perfectly fits this, so it needs to be this priority, this title code. But she's like, I feel like it should be a higher one. And so, I asked her, it's like, well, what can you say to justify that? And she's like, well, it just should be higher. They shouldn't have to wait that long. And I was like, okay, that's great. You're thinking, but this is our policy, so enter it that way. And let's go
Mm-hmm.
on to the next call, because we are the sum of our collective knowledge and wisdom as an organization, but
Mm-hmm.
you need to have the through line of what you do, because just like interpreting attendance policies differently, if you're interpreting SOPs differently, you're going to just have pandemonium. And two people calling in
Agreed.
should not feel like they're treated differently if they have the exact same
Mm-hmm.
situation. That's
Mm-hmm.
that's not fair at all.
No, it's not. And you can disagree. You can agree to disagree. That's just the bottom line. But at some point, because we have a peer that works with us, I love, she says this often, and it's just one of my favorite things I've ever heard her say. I have my opinion, you have yours, and they have theirs. The right answer is somewhere in the middle.
Hmm. Yeah.
But in order to get to that somewhere in the middle, we have to be willing to put down our rightness.
Yes.
We have to be willing to set aside our ego enough to think about the bigger picture, entertain other ideas, and maybe it might just be that part of your idea is good, and part of his is good, and part of hers is good. Maybe if we can set aside our egos and make it and remember that it's not about us individually, maybe we can come together and find the answer that's in the middle.
Right. Because ultimately, being a first responder is a team sport. It's not an individual
Hmm.
sport. So even though,
Never will be.
yeah,
Never in a million years, unless you're in a one seat PSAP. But even then, you may be the only one in the seat, but I bet you got partners.
yeah, and unless you're also going out there to stop the crime or fight the fire or what have you,
Say that.
there's always other people involved,
Hmm.
and working together as a team is critical. There was a TV show that was on, I think in the early 2010s, called The Good Guys. Only ran for like half a season, but there's a great line in it, um, where the lead was, there was like cops in Dallas, and it was a great show. But the lead in it was talking to, like, he's like an old hardened cop, and he was talking to like the new guy, and he was saying, you see, the difference between the bad guys and the good guys is the bad guys are a bunch of guys out there with guns, but the good guys, we're a team of guys running around with guns. And like, that's
Good point.
um,
Good point.
working together is,
Hmm.
and what was it they used to have, uh, an old saying that, you might outrun my Chevrolet, but you won't outrun my four-way or my two-way, meaning the radio, and
Yeah.
your other
Yep.
teammates on the other side of that radio to catch the bad guy.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
um, those are,
But you're right. Beautifully said. It is a team sport. It will always be a team sport. There will. There's never going to be one person that is the dispatcher, the call taker, the police officer, the EMT, and the firefighter. You're never going to have one person wear all those hats and still get the job done. So, how do you do it? I think you remember that it's not about you. Set your ego down. And remember that it's not about you. And remember that everybody has value. All of their ideas have value. Even if it doesn't fit the situation, find a way to share that with them that doesn't damage them to the point where they no longer can trust you or feel like they can trust you as a teammate. And
Absolutely.
remember that it's a much bigger picture.
Mhm. And I think the sign that you have a healthy work group or team is that you have people that are willing to talk and say what their disagreements are, what their differing opinions are, because they know that even though that may not be the direction that's gone with, they feel trusted
Hmm.
that they can share those in an environment that their other teammates will listen to and if not if not agree to, at least understand. And I think that's a mark of a healthy dynamic.
You know, I just had a thought.
Oh,
One of our favorite show. Thinking of Star Trek The Next Generation, right?
yeah. I mean,
How many times in the ready room that Captain Picard says Ed brings all the senior staff to the ready room and is it his ready room that they meet in or is that the other room? Anyway,
oh, they'll meet in the
they
off. Yeah,
all
they meet a lot.
they meet and you've got the department heads, right? Of each one. You've got the doctor, you've got engineering, you've got I don't know,
Security,
security, you've got the first officer, you got the captain and who knows. And they bring all of these people in the room and they all have value and he wants to hear from every single one of them. Or even if he just says, okay, well, this problem is more of an engineering situation, so he's going to talk to Jordy about it because he's that guy. But guess what? It might affect this, that, or that. And they're all in the room to weigh in. Your experience as a first responder, whether you be, regardless of what side of the radio or the discipline, all of the voices are necessary. They all have value. So everyone should be able to weigh in without it being personal if their idea is not chosen. But just like if you've never watched Star Trek, I'm so sorry for you because it's part of one of the best shows ever. But literally, they all come together and they all weigh in because they've got one common goal, and that's to solve this problem. It's usually only got about an hour. We usually don't have that long to figure out what to do. But the principle is there.
hmm yeah,
I just thought about that.
yeah. And
Star Trek.
if you can have your organization be like the USS Enterprise D under Captain Picard,
Yes,
then you
yes.
have reached the pinnacle, I
Arrived.
think,
You
of
have arrived.
yes. And it is a fantastic show, and if you're interested in uh, leadership, which I think my favorite leadership book I ever have read was one called
Lessons from Captain Picard.
Make It So, Leadership Lessons from Captain
Yeah,
Picard. You don't even have to be familiar with the show to grab insights from it, but
sure.
just as Erica was saying, like, you get everybody together, your subject matter experts, no matter what rank they are or what they do, because you don't want to
Hmm.
make a decision about, like, say, I don't, I'm going to just make up something uh, like timekeeping software. You don't want to make a decision
Hmm.
of what timekeeping software to buy or how to develop it with just the Monday through Friday 9 to 5 people. If you've got people that are also working like 24/7, 365, again, just
Hmm.
total, just pulling that out of the ether. But
Really, Gary?
yeah, because then you might have software that doesn't work so well, and that'll be a problem.
Hmm.
So you want all of those different ideas in the room and try and suss out the best way to do it. Because a lot of times, I think you'll find that it's not any one person's idea, but it might be a mix of ideas that end up
Yeah.
how you move forward.
Like our peer says, the answer, usually the right answer, the best answer is in the middle with a piece of this one, this one, this one, and this one.
Yeah.
That's how we get there. And that's how you work with people, differing opinions. There's no way to nail this down unless you give us a specific topic, the person that presented this to us. I think, but the general idea can be applied no matter where you work, whether it's first responder or emergency communications or McDonald's or anything. Because, I remember working at McDonald's like, oh my God, we're 15 minutes to close and here comes a bus
Yeah.
full of folk. How are we gonna do this and still get out of here on time? Uh, and in their area of expertise, which is burgers and fries and shakes, we made it happen. But these are principles that you can use no matter what level you're at, and no matter what discipline you have, or what discipline is yours, fire, EMS, PD, or mental health in our case.
So I just have one question for you, Erica.
Oh dear.
Why is the ice cream machine always broken?
You know, I don't really have an answer for that because I remember ours was broken a lot. And it's been so many years, I refuse to date myself, but I just remember, you're right, it was always broken. And I don't remember what the reason for that is, actually, now that I think about it.
Hmm.
Maybe because it gets used so often? I don't know.
Well, if you know the answer to that, let us know in the comments, please. But if you have if you're a first responder, I would be curious to know, I think we both would, if you find that your organization works better under stress and duress when you've got a critical incident, because do you have more or less cohesion to your your prime directive, we'll call it,
Hmm.
to help keep people safe when the things are getting real. So yeah,
Yeah,
leave us a comment or shoot us an email at lifeline911podcast@gmail.com with that, because I'd like to know if that's just us or
I
if that's
think it's,
everyone.
I bet it's everyone, but it would be, yeah, I would be curious to know the same.
Well, we hope that you've enjoyed listening to us and found some of our information edifying and perhaps even enlightening. And we hope that you will join us again next week as well. From all of us at Lifeline 911, I'm Gary,
America.
and we will see you next week.
Thank you for watching. If you have any questions about today's topic or topics you'd like to cover in the future, please reach out to us at lifeline911podcast@gmail.com. This has been a production of Lifeline 911, copyright 2026. Until next time, this is Lifeline 911 signing off.